The Corn School on realagriculture.com is brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
So I'm joined by Greg Stewart, OMAF Corn Lead. And Greg, you were just telling me that you've just been touring southwestern Ontario pretty extensively the last couple of days, getting a look at this corn crop. You said you're a lot more comfortable now than you were 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, I have to confess that on August 15th, I wasn't resting too easily about the development in the corn crop. I think most of us are sleeping a little bit easier now. A lot of the corn in the southwest is sort of in that half milk line sort of maturity. That's not far off where we'd like to be. Most of the southwest has missed any frost damage, and the 2-week forecast is not bad. So yeah, my anxiety level was pretty high. We got some very cool periods there at the end of July, beginning of August. It seemed like pollination dragged out for a very long time, and we were certainly behind, depending on where you were. You might say you were behind a week, maybe 10 days, 2 weeks in terms of development. From the middle of August until the middle of September, we've had pretty decent conditions, and we're not ahead of the game anywhere, but we're in decent shape, and a corn crop that's, I don't think, going to disappoint too many.
A lot of discussion obviously about frost. What about roots and stalks, Greg? Are they going to stand up?
Yeah, good question. So on the root side, we realized that heavy rains, June, July, we had root systems that were not as extensive as you would have liked. We've seen nitrogen deficiency in pockets across the province. So I think there is some apprehension about how solid a root system and maybe even how solid a stalk we have in some of those areas that look stressed throughout a good part of the June-July period. We've
been watching for a number of years the uptick of average yields, some surprising yields in the past years. Put your prognostication hat on here. Where is this crop going to rank?
Gosh, I'll be a typical government guy. I think we have flirted with average most of the year, and I still think we're in that. I think there will be significantly fewer disappointments than what we had with last year's dry weather. I don't think we'll have the really bin-busting yields in some areas like we had last year, but I think the disappointments will be few and far between, and that we'll be relatively happy with unfortunately maybe about an average sort of crop after it's all put to bed.
Okay. So Greg, one issue that's out there is vomitoxin. We saw a high vomitoxin in wheat, and a lot of guys are wondering whether that's going to show up in corn.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting a lot of calls on that issue. High levels of vomitoxin in wheat, and does that automatically translate to a risk or to a expectation of higher vomitoxin in the corn? I think the short answer is no. That you wouldn't automatically conclude that because we had a high risk wheat that we're going to have problems in the corn crop. Very difficult at this stage in the game to get out and assess that. We do a survey each year prior to harvest. Now this has to be a hand harvested survey. We go around maybe 100 fields in the province and pull ears, dry them, shell them, and run them for vomitoxin analysis, getting lots of requests for that information to be out as soon as possible. So we'll target sort of October 1st to go around and do a survey of what we think the vomitoxin pressure is like in this year's corn crop, and get that information out as soon as possible.